So good afternoon. Thank you for sustaining a long day in the heat. This is the last panel session we have today, and we're going to talk about the future trends in circus arts. And we have today here Vittoria Lombardi, Claudia Berkeley, and Verena Cornwall. But we just realized that while thinking about all the balance and diversity and representation, we forgot to think about a circus artist in this panel. So we kind of have to find a solution for this. What I suggest is that we have a microphone here. So instead of making this just a panel with us here on stage, maybe we could be a bit more all together, as we're not so many, and just try to create a discussion. So you're welcome to comment on anything we say directly or ask questions, and please participate, because I'll introduce myself. I'm Mara Pabela. I'm a director of CIRCUS, but with no prior practitioner experience either. So we are all here organizers and theoreticians, so we would be very welcoming to join everybody in this conversation. But first I'll ask maybe my dear colleagues here to introduce themselves so we understand better what context we are in. Yes? Yeah.
Okay, hello everyone. And first of all, thank you, Beta Circus Projects, for inviting me here. It was an amazing day full of thoughts and inspirations. So my name is Vittoria Lombardi. I'm based in Italy, Milano. I'm director and curator of Culture and Projects, which is a cultural association that works with mainly with the choreography, participatory process, and site-specific arts. I have been working as a producer with artists and companies since 2010, so it's 10 years, 12 years now. But actually my background is in political sciences. I graduated in international cooperation and international relations. So actually, since the very beginning for me, my heart has always beaten in the gray area, in the gray zone, where arts and artistic experimentation meet also policies and political research. So actually, what we are trying to also to focus on within my association is also how culture could bring impacts and can be can be enough disruptive also to foster social changes and speak also to different stakeholders, and how we can artists and policymaker can talk together and speak together and work together for social change. And I will pass the microphone also to the other panelists to introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. So first of all, thanks for Bussola for the invitation. It was a long day of learning for me, and it was super good, so thanks for that. And I'm Claudia Berkeley. I'm one of the directors of Teatro da Didascalia, and we are a Portuguese structure based in the north region of Portugal, Famalicão. And we are a mix, because we are artists and we are also programmers. So in our creations, we do multidisciplinary creations, but the basis is theater, because we are actors. And then on the other hand, we have a residency center called Fauna, and we program the Vaudeville Rendezvous International Festival, which is a festival dedicated to circus and creation for public space. One of our missions is actually to support the creation for the emerging artists and also the ones that are more consolidated. And that's why we co-produce. We are open to discuss things that the artist needs, and we are also supporting on the more, how to say, bureaucratic part And I think that on a resume, it's this. I'm also responsible for the participation of Teatro Didascalio on the Circus Next, Circus Strada, The Sphere, and Circus Link, which are international projects that probably I will speak a bit during this panel. And that's it. Verena, it's your turn.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you very much for the invitation. Isn't it delightful to be in a room with people talking about subjects that are very close to our heart? So my name is Verena Cornwall. I'm currently based in the UK. I'm the director of a company called Circus Futures, which I set up about 20 years ago, which focuses on helping artists make work of quality and also enabling that work to be shown to audiences. So it's the kind of main mission. And that company and myself were one of the founding partners for Circus Next, and also a founding partner for Circus Strada. So you'll hear me speaking about lots of different hats as well today, one of which is a new festival that's popped up in London called Kensington and Chelsea Festival, which is, again, focusing a lot on reaching audiences with performance work who would not normally go. So most of the shows are free. All of the outdoor arts and circus program is obviously free, but also the indoor work, including one of the Circus Next companies, is all pay what you want. And the idea is it's kind of non-language based work, primarily circus, but also some opera. And then just to say, I started a long time ago, about 35 years ago, in circus, working with a traditional circus, setting up the first ever in the UK accredited circus qualification. So a lot of my work is with traditional circuses and trying to find the way to merge some relationships, even if it's for small projects, between traditional and contemporary.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can do as well, like just a very short sort of screening of the audience. Who can you raise the hand if you come from the circus scene? If you work in the circus scene in the audience? Okay. Who's a practicing artist? Practicing artist? Yes, Mira, you practice an artist. Just not organizers, you know. So, just please, yeah, everybody feel free to jump in and any question. But I'll start with one, which is I think sort of more address you as organizers. We're supposed to talk about the future trends in the circus art, but I feel like we have not seen each other so much in live for quite a while, both with artists and just us. And we come as well from Italy, Portugal, UK. It's countries where I think circus is really developing, but it wouldn't be the first countries that would always come in mind with the biggest circus infrastructure. What for you is this actually the state of circus at the moment? Where are we? Where do we start from when we talk about the development in the future?
But just one question before I start. Do you mean on a national level or
the way you feel comfortable?
Okay, so on the national level, I must say that the circus scene in the last few years has grown a lot. And that's also due to the fact that we have schools now. So people come to Portugal to learn, and then they remain here and they create their own companies, and the artistic work starts to show up. So that's one of the things, and that's the basis to actually have contemporary circus around. And the other one, there has been a lot of work, and a big part of it is also done by Bússola to create awareness in the programmers that the circus exists and circus is important, and we need to have space for circus. So that's something that we also did in the 4 cities where the festival takes place, mainly there. And it's good because now when you check the program of the theaters on these cities, you actually can see circus. still doesn't have the presence like theater or dance, but it's going on that direction, I believe. So on a very resumed way, once again, this is, I think, the situation in Portugal. And also, we have more festivals dedicated to circus and creation for public space. And if you see the map, the national map, the Portuguese map, you can actually see that it's getting painted, it's gaining colors. So that, for me, gives me hope that the situation will get better really soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, I think that the Italian scene can share some similar aspects about what Claudio was saying before. There has been an intense process of recognition of contemporary circus from both from the institutional side and also from other actors of the cultural fields. So actually in the latest years, partnerships and cooperations between theater and also indoor venues and contemporary circus companies and artists got closer and more intense. And actually, as Claudio was saying before, the you can see now on the programs of theater a bigger presence of contemporary circus shows, and I think this actually very it was a goal that was very significant, especially for considering the space for funding contemporary circus, because usually in Italy the Ministry of Culture, which is actually not the main funders for arts, but at the same time a significant one, actually didn't have space to contemporary circus, but it was still focused on traditional circus. So I have to say that circus companies, circus artists did a strong advocacy work to push and to foster contemporary circus to get a recognition and to find space. Still, I think that a lot of goals are still to reach, and at the same time, I find, but I don't want to sound too much critic, so that I don't know. I felt that actually the sometimes the Italian scene has focused so much in being recognized and to gain space to indoor spaces that somehow has some, I don't know. Sometimes I felt that has forgotten also how powerful it is to bring circus also outdoors, and also the also how this was this is also a power nowadays to stay on the public spheres, and where also the political debate is going on, but also because of what we experienced with COVID. So it's also, I think that circus has a lot to say in how we use outdoor spaces and the public spaces, and how we can also regain the use and rethink about the use of outdoor spaces and the public spaces.
But that is something that you see more as something that is being lost at the moment rather than being developed? The regaining of the public space?
No, it is. It is. No, I don't think that it is lost, but actually I think that it's super important to yeah, to be present in both, to not renounce, to also to all the knowledge that also circus can bring for its traditional presence on the outdoor, also to other disciplines and other forms of art, other languages. I think that actually circus has a lot to say because of its history.
Raina, will you want to add something?
Yeah, so I think what's really interesting for many countries, and in particular for the UK, is how COVID has changed the relationships between some of the key players. And at the same time, the funding landscape in England has changed as well. So for a 2-minute history, to say that in the 90s, we had an art form policy for circus. And at that time, there was a national association that was an advocacy agency, which I was the chair of, and a national funding committee. So it all sounded like we were going somewhere really well in terms of being able to create structures for circuses and also grant-making facilities for artists. And then there was a change in how our Arts Council England distributed funding, and there was the loss of a single policy. And then if we track forward, there has been some key players who have developed over a period of time with some of the structural funds in geographical areas. So, for example, in the coasts where normally there is very little happening, we have a very good organisation called Sea Change Arts, who have done amazing work, both in terms of an international festival and also a creation space, and obviously local activity. But then in COVID, what happened was that the traditional circuses appeared in the scene of advocating, where they had been involved, but because they were there with commercial theatres as well, they were able to add really big weight to the discussion for funding circuses in the UK, and also for changing the laws on tax. So they managed to get the tax on tickets reduced from 20% to 5%, which is a huge impact in terms of then having spare money to be able to invest in paying artists. So that was quite a significant change that's taken place during the COVID period, and a very large amount of money was given to artists individually and also organisations, including traditional circuses, to stay afloat, to keep contracting artists and paying artists. So then at the moment we are just waiting for news about the nationally funded organisations, which may or may not see more circus organisations joining in. And we have a new Arts Council England policy, which is very difficult to navigate if you are a circus person who doesn't spend their life writing applications, because it's all about every single person can take part in something and far less about actually professional level arts, which makes it very difficult to navigate in terms of genuine outcomes for artists. It's great, anybody could take part, but to do that you need professional artists who could lead that work, and you need space for artists to develop their own work at the same time.
And seeing this context, I know the next question is going to be a little bit like who came first, chicken or egg, but who do you think the next changes in development in the circus is going to most depend on? Who are the first ones who have to act now? Is it the artists? Is it institutions? Or are we waiting for some policy changes? What is really the significant work that has to be done now?
Well, there's this thing called Brexit, if you haven't heard about it. And what's interesting about that is I've been on, with partners, a 15-year journey with Circus Next, you know, from there being kind of 2 people in a tiny office. And now Circus Next has its own creation space in Paris and partners across Europe. And Touchwood has been funded for all of these period of time. And now I have to leave, and so the whole of England has to leave the programme as well. And that is true about so many different partnerships that we would have been in, like I've been in many European partnerships. So what's interesting is our artists are leaving because in the Circus Next application process that just has been, surprisingly, if you look at the Swedish entries or you look at the Finnish entries, there are lots of English artists suddenly who are based in these different countries. So for us, it's obviously a huge dilemma because we are surrounded by water to start with. We can't just drive to see shows to begin with. Now we don't have the money to bring the companies over so our artists can see them. And our artists are leaving because why would you not leave? So it's really a very difficult.
Yeah, I think it's a very specific, unfortunately, context as well. And but how do you see that in Europe? Or
I'll try to answer. Well, actually, I believe that real changes arrive always from is a bottom-up processes. So I will say that actually artists can bring new ideas and new energies as well to this complex and crazy and this craziness that we are living after the pandemic, which is also, I mean, we have to see, I think we have to see this crisis we have been through as a possibility also to change and to develop new models of living together. Then communities and policymakers have to follow. I mean, so because otherwise that's what happens. So they actually policies can affect usually the cultural development of a country or of a local context. But actually, I think that we still have to believe that actually we have a political role, and artists has a political role also to push and to foster social changes, and to also to as we were saying before, if there hasn't been this advocacy work from the circus companies to being recognized and to bring contemporary circus in theater programs and in venues that before has closed doors for them. So we probably wouldn't be here. So I think that we still have to believe in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I would like to add is that for me it's not a clear, and to anybody, a clear answer. It's not the artist's role to continue to, or the programmers. I think it's like Louise was saying in the morning. It's a collaboration. So we need to get together and discuss which way should we go, because together we are stronger than if we are taking different ways to reach the same goal. And one thing I think that with this question I can introduce is another project that was actually created by a group of artists, an artist and a producer, which are Salorant and De Vadler. They are from Sweden. And Ole, he's a circus artist, and Sara, she is a producer. And they decided to create a project, and they gather festivals and also people from the economical part, because the main ambition of this project is to create a new financial model for arts. So it might seem crazy, and it is a little bit. And it's also difficult to explain, so I will try my best. So the main idea, it was to spread the power among the public, the audience, the programmers, the artists, and just not take that from the stakeholders or whatever. So the idea was to we did an open call where we invite the CIRCUS Next ex-laureates, and then they created an NFT So this is using the blockchain technology. And those NFTs were selling online, and these NFTs were created having the Circus Next artist has an inspiration. So one thing, take to another one, the new creation. There was a vote, and one of these new creations got the fund of 10,000 euros. And the winner was Andrea Salustri with the show Materia. Now what's follow? We will do another open call for circus artists in general from all over Europe, and they can recreate a new work having as an inspiration the first work, so Andrea's work. And it's very complicated, I know. Even for me, I'm on the project, and it took me a long journey to understand it. But this is a new way to get creative and to keep the power on your side and be autonomous when you want to create. So this is a very experimental project. One thing that's good is that it's not just Andrea's work that was selected, because this vote was also open to the other artists, and actually one artist got funded to have another work done. So it already has their seats, and we just need to give the time for them to grow, and that's it.
So you're talking about the project Sphere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I think that is a very good example on how to create a new space for creation and this new economic reality as well. Maybe you have more examples on what we as organization or institutions, how can we create space for emerging new trends in the circus arts?
Shall I mention some of the activities that the Circus Next partners are up to? Then you don't just get me talking about Brexit. So we had a meeting at the beautiful new Circus Next space the other day, and we were just sharing ideas of projects we're currently doing and ideas of how we could carry on working together. So Subtopia, we're talking about working with the National Theatre of Stockholm. So this idea of fusing art forms on a national level. And Le Central de Cirque in Barcelona, like many of us, are working on national and international intercultural exchanges. And Festival Circulo in the Netherlands, developing residencies on a longer term basis with tented structures and also with theatres. And then Perplex Festival in Belgium, which many of you will know about, supporting fragile work and taking a much longer term view of working with artists, nurturing artists over a period of time, but also enabling the artists to show really fragile work to audiences. So those audiences have some kind of education process about how work is made, but also they have a kind of personal investment in seeing the final piece of work. So it was very interesting when we were just talking about different ways to support artists and just sharing those kind of experiences.
Do you want to add something?
Well, I can give an example of actually how answering to your question. So how we can also shape new models of collaborations between also different actors, artists, and also municipalities and CSOs, so local organizations that maybe works not within the cultural sectors, but that can be linked together. I don't know if we show something, or maybe ask Bruno if we can maybe send a little video. The one with the astronaut.
Well,
Let's not this one. Ah, yes.
senza fine, tu trascini la nostra vita, senza un attimo di respiro per sognare, per poter ricordare quel che abbiamo già vissuto, senza fine. Tu sei un attimo senza fine. Non hai ieri, non hai domani, tutto è ormai nelle tue mani, mani grandi, mani senza fine. Non mi importa della luna, non mi importa delle stelle, tu per me sei luna e stelle. Tu per me sei sole e cielo, tu per me sei tutto quanto voglio avere, senza fine. Tu sei un attimo senza fine, non hai ieri, non hai domani, tutto è ormai nelle tue mani, mani grandi, mani senza fine. Non mi importa della luna, non mi importa delle stelle, tu per me sei luna e stelle, tu per me sei sole e cielo, tu per me sei tutto quanto voglio avere, senza fine. La 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 la.
This was a brief teaser of a performance by Elisabetta Consonni, which is a choreographer I'm working with, which is named The Second Paradox of Zeno, which is based on the Zeno and the tortoise and Achilles. So it was actually it was a performance about the sort of an analogy of the slowness and in our world where everything is super fast and we are always on a rush and we're always struggling. And it happened that actually we were contacted by the municipality of a specific district of Milano that were struggling for building a cycle path and to reduce the mobility of cars at 30 high-speed kilometers. And actually, it was a topic of high conflict in the district because especially shops was I don't know, quite worried that this changing in the urban environment of the district could affect negatively their economy, and all the citizens were. There were different teams about the topics. So actually, we were some of the people that were involved in this political process have saw the performance during the festival. So they actually contacted us to build the workshops with the local communities about slowness. So what Elisabetta did was that we had different workshops and where we shape different other costumes for astronauts, because actually the performance was born as a slow motion as a one-woman show. So it was not collectively made, but we decided to build a parade. And we work with the the Department of Anthropology of the University of Milan, that was at the same time making interviews, collecting and using sociological techniques and methods to collect impressions about this urbanistic transformation of the district, and we worked together. And it was fascinating for us, and we learned a lot. And then we realized that after a while, so we were actually asked to be part of the process of co-designing the new aspects and the new clothes, the new aspects of the district, and we realized that all the interviews that were collected before and all the results of the focus groups that were made after was very different. So it was interesting for us also to realize what kind of impacts we had. And this was just an example of also how we can build new links or new partnerships, also to give space to artistic projects to also make their points.
Do you think that at this direction that Circus is going to go to be more participative in politic and social issues, or?
Okay, so I will just give an example, which is a political statement and also environmental related. For example, there's this company Acting for Climate, and they are from Denmark, and they bring awareness about our footprint and what we are doing to the environment. So they actually travel a lot, and they are also part of the Perform Europe. I think they are in one of those projects. And the thing it's like they don't take flights, they don't drive which way wherever they are going to perform, so they take train. So we are actually in contact with them, and they will travel from Denmark to Famalicão by train. And so I think that this is a good example on how the artists can bring awareness and take political and other decisions that have an impact in the others too.
Yeah, issue-based work is very interesting. In Kensington and Chelsea Festival, which is on at the moment, I'd say 80% of the outdoor arts circus work that I've programmed is around climate change or some theme to do with climate change. And that was for two reasons. One is that the local authority, the council who's paying for the festival, it has announced a climate change emergency because it's right in the middle of London. So this is good because they have invested in this brand new festival. But the other thing is that there were very few companies who were not making issue-based work in England, which was very surprising and not the situation that we had last year. So we know it's on a social responsibility level, but also obviously there's a personal resonance with the artists who are making the work and would like to think also with the audiences who are receiving the work. But also there has, to my mind, been a change in the last few years of artists feeling like they have to make work that is either issue-based in some cases or narrative-driven, and it's very interesting. I'm studying for a PhD in circus, and I've been interviewing artists across Europe about the making of their work, what they think is innovation in circus, and how they make work that is quality. And it's super interesting to kind of, as a non-artist, to go into the mind of an artist, to work out that driver. And is there a common thread in the driver? And is there a pressure to feel like you have to say something, however deep or wide that is with the work, when, for example, I was the principal of a famous ballet school, and we had a choreographer come to make a new piece with the students, which was beautiful. I know nothing about ballet. It was amazing. And I said to him, you know, I'm kind of struggling to see what the story is here. And he said, oh, it's a plotless ballet. Like, it has no story. And I was like, wow, in circus, we spend all our time trying to shoehorn a story into something that we're doing so that the promoter can sell it. You know, I was brilliant. I thought it was a very clever notion.
No, very interesting. And what did you find in the interviews? Do you feel that there really is this pressure to create the stories? And is that the innovation in the?
I think, without putting words into artists' minds, you know, that is counter an innovation in a way in circus. You know, if you are to adopt an external pressure that isn't genuine to yourself, it's always going to be a big struggle to come up with something that is useful in that. You know, we have quasi-commercial contemporary circuses in the UK that have tried to do that to sell the work, because there is a market for people who want that kind of work. But whether it's the best quality, you know, is another question, because if it's not from the artist, it's from a piece of paper someone's given them, you know, make a piece of work about this thing, it's never going to be the best work, is it, from the artist or the audience? I don't think.
Did in the interviews did you share what is the innovation today for the circus?
Yeah, so there's a series of podcasts if you'd like to listen to them.
Yes.
On Circus Futures, there's a podcast where I tried to talk to a traditional or contemporary circus artist in Europe to have their view. And it is their view. I mean, it's the same as if we had a view. My view is different to your view. So there isn't a commonality necessarily in what constitutes innovation, but it's super interesting to hear people talk about it. And certainly because, from my mind, you know, there is actually a resonance between traditional and contemporary, which we might not think. But certainly in terms of making work of quality, for me as someone who's never been an artist and never will be an artist, it's very great to have followed the journey of so many artists through Circus Next, and then also to be able to interview some of those artists as part of the PhD, to understand a bit more about their own thoughts on a process. And one thing that I am currently fascinated with is the ability to offer feedback, because it's, I think, the biggest gap, the biggest loss, and perhaps the way forward is to find a safe way, like a mobile feedback box that comes at a festival, and artists go in and promoters go in the other side, and they have a safe conversation and then both go home separately, because that is something that is really missing and has for a long time been missing, the ability in a supportive way to be able to tell somebody your views if they want them. And there is that very complex dynamic between a programmer, of course, you know, and an artist.
I think this feedback question is it's a very interesting question. Do you tackle it in any way with the artists in your festivals, with work in progresses, or when you support new artists?
If we give them feedback?
Yeah. How do you organize it?
Okay, so, for example, whenever we have a residency, we allow the artists to do a work in progress presentation, but it's not mandatory, because sometimes they are not comfortable to do that. So whenever they want and they ask us for our support, we give them. Even if it's good or it's not, the main thing is we always try to be constructive when we give feedback, even if it's a proposal that we don't like that much, because there's space for everyone. So that's something that we actually do, and I actually constantly attend to work-in-progress presentations, and at the end I give feedback to the artist, because I always say this is only my perspective, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense to you. Do with that what you want. But it's important to have someone that comes from outside and has no influence on what is about to happen and then shares. This exchange is important. And on the other way, as a festival, we usually send, how to say, I don't remember the word in English, but it's like a questionnaire where the artists can give feedback and ideas for us to improve. Because we work for the artists to have space to show their work, so it makes sense to actually hear what they have to say about what we are doing. So I think this window of discussion really needs to be open if we want to continue growing.
Yeah, it's a very actually natural but practice, but I think it's not so common to realize that the feedback should be both ways.
Yeah.
Talking about the new trends that we're trying to avoid here, for very valid reasons. But I was just thinking, during the pandemics in the morning, we heard about a lot of that in the magic field. There has been a lot of things done digitally, and that could be interesting to keep doing that in some sort of ways. But I have personally found it very difficult for circus, in general live performance, but especially circus, to enjoy it in a filmed way. Do you see there's still, what do you think about everything that has, rised up during this COVID pandemic with the digitalization? Does circus has any future in collaboration with digital?
I would like to give my personal opinion. And it's, for me, this idea of having the digitalization of performing arts, it doesn't work. And it can be used just like a path that you are going to reach another thing, but that thing, it's the life, this exchange. To me, even and it doesn't matter what's the field, if it's circus, theater, magic, whatever. For me, to have a performing art, it needs to be on a stage or on the street and have an audience in front of you. The digital part was a resource that was used when this was not allowed. So I prefer to keep it like that. And go back to the normal.
But is there some ways, are there some learnings or some ways that we can still use this knowledge that we have gained during this time?
Shall I try for that? So I'm the lowest tech person you've ever met in your entire life. Until 2 days ago, I had a BlackBerry, but it broke. Now I've got this really old telephone. So in COVID, because we were meant to be hosting Circus Next artists who couldn't travel, I was like, okay, now what do I do? We can't cancel an entire European program because we need to support the artists. So I put together some film screenings where I would never have imagined this actually worked, but anyway, it did, where we had one artist in real life and one artist on the beautiful Zoom screen, and the one artist in real life's film and the one artist on the Zoom screen's film, and an audience who were completely non-circus. And I invited them to come to find out that if they learnt more about an artist, whether they would be more likely to go and see a circus show. So we did it in 2 different locations, was waiting for the tech to break completely, but no, Collier appeared from Circus Next on the screen, could see everybody, they could talk to him after his show, and it was a really stunning experience for me, being a non-digital high-tech person. And then when I spoke to the audience afterwards, they were unanimously saying, we would now come and see a show by this person because we've seen them, even though he was in Germany, clearly, and wasn't there in real life. So this summer in the festival that I'm running, one thing that we're doing is the council has lots of children who unfortunately have no parents and never will have parents. So that council looks after them till they're 25. So last year and this year I created a trainee program for what are called looked after children. And so I've got somebody who's 20 now. He came as a refugee from Sudan. and he is going to be working with me over the summer, talking to audiences on the spot when they've seen the outdoor arts circus shows, asking them, how do you decide something is of quality? Like, what does that mean to you? And I'm talking about shows that are in parks, where 90% of people who come are not thinking there is a show today. They've come to walk the dog, but they always stay and watch. So it's going to be super interesting to see. They're going to see the show, and he's going to just appear and talk to them. It's not very formal at all. But I'm really curious as to this relationship and the dynamic between audiences and work.
I will add something very briefly, but because I think that actually digital devices and technology as well, it could are interesting. I mean, they are tools as others. So the fact was that I think that during the pandemic there has been this this situation where artists were pushed to use digital devices for their creations, even if they weren't meaningful aesthetically or dramaturgically. So, so if they actually have a meaning in your creation process, so they are interesting because I mean they are they're medium. They can be. They are a current element of a creative process. Otherwise, they are not. So, and I think that actually what happened, and I'm speaking from in Italian perspective because it's actually it's what I know best. Being based in Italy, but I saw that actually a lot of open calls for giving grants to artists during the pandemic were actually focused on digital creation, and they actually pushed and put the artists in a corner where they had to respond to that. But this wasn't actually something that the artistic community asked. It's something that actually was brought from the top down. And but artists were struggling to have a chance also to still producing, to still create. So actually they tried to apply. But it was actually that it's like that the sort of it was all the nature of the genuinity of an artistic idea was completely inverted. I mean, because the urgency was not perceived from the artist, but was actually something that was it was a sort of constraint, and so actually. I don't know. I feel that it was very interesting. Lots of experimentation that instead of thinking about how to become digital, and that is reconnecting for what I was saying before. But for instance, to realize how we were separated from public space and from proximity with the audiences, and how we could invent new forms of taking back the public sphere. Also rethinking about also the instrument, and maybe using as well the digital instrument to do that, but not the way backwards. No, I don't know in English.
Was there a question in the audience?
Yeah. Hello. I have 3 questions, but I want to continue in this what you mentioned because it's about this digital. I think there is no back, because when you go back, well, then the question, okay, what was this back today? That definitely is about digital and art. Well, I'm not artist in that sense, doing the practice directly. But I think this time was maybe, well, it was kind of unexpected to everyone. And that's why this notion of, okay, we were forced and that, well, partly this happened. But at the same time, I would love to bring this notion that I think thinking about the digital and transformation and going there, there's a lot of this notion about exploring the artistic expressions. And if we are thinking about new generations, their minds are working differently. And they are very much embedded and immersed in what digital world is around them. So I think this is something it is not for everyone, that's for sure. But I think there's a lot of potential to expand and more empower the diversity of artistic expressions and the languages we would love to use it. But I will go back to my questions. First question is about the feedback. I'm curious about, have you discussed, or you have maybe already practiced this, have you kind of brought this notion about what is this safe place for the artists, for the programmers, for the audiences to really give a feedback? The notion of, because we look for the safe place, but the question is, what is this safe place? Of course, there will be different angles, but I think it's, maybe you have already some practice. Another question was, it's a bit related maybe about thinking about the new ways of practicing and how do we do the things professionally, personally, but and well, the way how we move it from today on further. I heard that there is like not every artist are how you say it, issue based, want to make these issue based works, and that's fair enough. But how is there kind of way of how we can, if even this work is not issue based, but how we can embed these issues in our way, how we practice and do the work? It's not doing like this is understanding about the process itself and the way we do. And the third question is about, because I found this sphere project, but I would have to read it more. I'm curious about how do you envision this cross-sectoral collaborations, and I think one practice it's at least how far you told it. It brings that, okay, we really have to step in another sector and understand and get inspiration. So how do you see yourself, like the areas you work, environment, this notion of going beyond the sector you are working in and collaborating with others? Thank you.
Yes, yes.
So I am a bit fascinated with this idea of quality, and you will see from my questioning. So I think in 2015, Circus Futures ran a conference in the framework of the London International Mime Festival. So the Mime Festival was on, there was a Circus Next company came, who's one of our laureates, called Iona Cooney, and I ran a conference called Making Work of Quality about circus. So what we did was we invited all the delegates to come to see the show on the day before, to see own a show, and then the next day we had a critic and a producer and the artist on the stage, and there was a conversation about it, a feedback related conversation where then the delegates were able to listen to that, having understood the framework for it because they had all seen the show. So then there was the ability of, like, if you wanted to invite feedback from somebody as the day went on, the artist had the ability to do that, but the audience were respectful of the fact that just because they had an opinion didn't mean to say that the artist actually needed to hear that or not. So it was a really interesting exercise in terms of actually having a critic and an artist talking about their work when everybody in the delegate audience had seen it the day before.
As you prefer. You go
So, if I understood your question right, you were saying how it was from us that are from this artistic field to have this mix with other fields like economics. Is that it? Well, yeah. Yeah? If not, you can say it again. Mm-hmm. And the way how you approach your work. Mm-hmm. So I think, what is your opinion? It's not, well, I'm curious about your opinion of this because this practice is there, but what is your opinion and how do you see it further? Okay, so to start, it was a really big challenge to get to know and to actually understand. I must say that it was for a couple of months at least. It took me a couple of months at least to understand the idea and what they intend to do. And then it was really a matter of learning and exchanging in a way that it makes sense to combine these different areas and these different things in one project. One thing that I've learned and that I will keep forever, it's that this digital art, like the NFTs, etc., are really non-ecological. So that's a problem that I just figured out later, and I think that it's okay, it was part of the project, it was an idea, and it was a way to reach a better goal. But it's something that I know personally that I don't want to go again. And this is also because we work having an ecological perspective. And another thing, I think it was another a question that you did, it was about if the artistic work is not issue-based, how can you take those issues into your creative process? And one thing I think that it's possible to do, it's to, whenever you need to buy something, buy locally. And promote the circular economics. So this is something that we try to do in everything that we are working. And so I'm not sure if I understand you, no. If I answer you, sorry.
Well, this is, again, the question is kind of open, and I think you... One thing, what I heard from you, this learning process, and then in the learning process, actually, you start another discussion, which is this common ground. I would say, if I heard that you say, I figure out that this digital is not ecological, so this is the conversation where something it's where you can start it further. You base the values like. It's just, I think, another question about the practices, of course, you gave answer, yeah.
Yeah, just maybe you can elaborate. I was just thinking about this practice of us as institutions. I think that actually the project that you did, what was the name of it? EU project on mapping.
CIRCUS Link,
yeah, CIRCUS Link, I think is quite a good example on how we can, as institutions, can bring this more responsibility in terms of ecology.
Okay, so great point. CIRCUS Link, it's another project that we are part of, and it's a project that consists on creating a map and to create the touring more sustainable. So we created a platform, and the idea is to have the artists and also the programmers, even though if you have a venue or if you have a festival, on that map. And then you have like the characteristics of both. Like if I am a festival, I program outdoor shows, I'm interested in circus and creation for public space. And then if you are an artist and you are looking for something, there's the filters where you can match. And the idea is to, whenever you have a show booked, you can check what's available around. Because we, as an artist, and now I'm speaking as an artist and not a programmer, We are constantly touring to do one show and then return and then go again and then return. And this is really pushing us to a limit because it's really tiring, and it's more clever if we find shows on the way around to one point to another. So this was the idea, and it's a project that we created, and we are doing a 2.0 project, we hope, where we can improve and actually in some way help the artists to get funding to do this touring.
Is the touring is like like the bands are doing from one country to another? That's the point of this project?
Yes. So if you are an artist, and for example, I'm based in Portugal, and then I have a show that was booked in France. The thing is, like, normally I'll go to France and then I get back. So the idea is on the way to France to find more dates, you know, on this way or on the way back. And anyone can register. You just need to be a circus artist or a programmer. So registrations are open. Just go there and make it work.
We have very little time left. Is there any comment or question? If not, then maybe we can finally get to the topic. As we know that we cannot know what are the circus trends, because we agreed that we are not the artists who are going to create the trends. We are the organizations who can facilitate. But maybe we can finish with a little wish for what would you wish for the sector? In which directions to develop, or what kind of spaces do we want to create?
Shall I have a go? So I'm going to answer with the word policy, much that I could have started talking about apparatus as well, because I've obviously been interviewing artists. So 2 years ago, I worked for the European Commission, doing research across Europe, engaging with each of the national cultural institutions and the arts councils to try and find out the answer to the question, which is how many policies, how much money, what's the situation of circus in Europe, which is the topic of the study. And obviously what you realise by doing that is the lack of status, which we always talk about in some countries, and then the amazing journeys that some other countries have been on really quickly. So I think, you know, we all could dream up a dream about investing in artists and creation spaces and venues and audiences, but all of it comes down to policy. And it's very interesting. I wrote the national policy for Ireland for circus, which was as a result actually of traditional circuses talking to the national government and just being able to track in one country the amount of money that has flown, that has come because of a policy. So I think, although it sounds very boring to say policy is the answer, it does mean that there will be money, because money has to follow once you have a rubber stamp on a recognised policy.
I will maybe connect to something that was said this morning. Actually, if I have to express a desire, I hope that circus arts, but also arts in general, I mean, still will keep doing what it's doing now, pushing the boundaries of what we dare imagine in how we live together. Because it was fascinating for me listening to all the people that spoke during the day about also how magic is a way to redefine its ideals into how we define collectively reality and possibility. And it's actually something that is extremely linked to policy, because there is this expressions that I love from Padurai, anthropologist, that is the right to imagination, which is linked to the power of imagination. And I think that actually we have to, we have to ask ourselves who has the power of imagining what, and how arts can redistribute the power of imagination. And this is actually how I think that we can also build a more democratic world. And so that's why I think that art is fundamental. It's fundamental in our societies.
Okay, so I just want to add to what Verena and Vittoria said, a word that is collaboration. It already exists, but we can go deeper on it. And this is also related to a lot of things like new fields, between the programmers, the artistic residencies, the policies. So collaboration for me, it's the word that kind of sum up what I expect to see more in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Claudia, Peter, Verena. Thank you for being here today and having this discussion. I hope it gave some food for thought. And this is actually the end of today's conference. So thank you very much. Maybe Bruno will come on the stage and say some goodbye words before we go outside for some performance.